Welcome to Succulents for Beginners. And today, we are going to save a Gymnocalcium cactus infested with scales using only household items. Let's get into it right after this. Look at this poor thing. This Gymnocalcium has been infested with scales for quite some time, but I just noticed it recently. We will get into our list of tips to successfully eliminate scales, so please watch until the end of this video to be sure not to miss out. But before that, we need to understand what kind of problem we have here. These are scales. It sounds like a disease, but these are actually insects that feed on plant sap. It's important for us to understand these pesky insects so we can easily outsmart them. Adult scales are immobile and are permanently attached to their feeding spot. They lay their eggs under their protective shell, and when the eggs are hatched, they crawl to find their own feeding spot and attach themselves there permanently. The adult scales are hard to treat because of their protective shell, while their offspring, known as nymphs, can easily be killed. Now, what do we use to kill them, which is found in every household? Let's get started with our list. At number 8, use 70% alcohol. Spray them with 70% alcohol and leave it for about a minute, which is enough time to kill. If not, make them weak for easier brushing. Alcohol brings no harm to cactus but can kill nymphs and scales if we hit their weak spots. But before we talk about their weak spots, let's get to our next tip. At number 7 on our list, remove cactus pups. It's best if we can remove these pups so we can also brush them. Why not leave them alone? Because we cannot brush them thoroughly if they are still attached to the mother cactus. There could be scales hiding in between them and might trigger another future infestation. What we want to happen is to remove any possible source of future infestation. At number 6 on our list, use finger caps. I love these finger caps. They come in handy when handling cactus to avoid the spines, and the best part is, your hand can move more freely. Now, it's time to brush them off, and that brings us to our next tip. At number 5 on our list, use off toothbrush. The toothbrush is strong enough to remove the scales and soft enough not to harm our cactus. Toothbrush removes scales way faster than a cotton swab. Some ask me if they can kill scales with alcohol without brushing. It's like this. Adult scales are protected by their thick shells. They won't die by just spraying alcohol. They need to be tipped off to expose their weak spot, which is under their shells. That's the reason why we need to brush them off. Brush thoroughly and continue to spray alcohol until all scales are eliminated. At number 4 on our list, rinse with water hose. Rinse with water using a little pressure from a hose to drive out the weak and the dead scales. Spray thoroughly to remove remnants of alcohol. After that, check for remaining scales. They must all be removed to avoid future infestation. We will do the same with these bigger pups. For the smaller pups, I decided to throw them away since they are too small to brush and might have scales in them and trigger another infestation. And why would we want to cut these long and healthy roots? That brings us to our next tip. At number 3 on our list, cut roots. I wanted to cut the roots since there might be scales hanging in there when we brush them off. Again, we do this to prevent any future infestation. And cutting the roots will give them a fresh start. You can cut all the roots though if you wanted to. This potting mix is very simple. It's 1 part soil, 1 part carbonized rice hulls, and 1 part pumice. As you can see, this potting mix is very loose. This is very ideal for cacti since they want the water to just pass by them. They don't want a potting mix that remains too much water and holds it for long periods of time. Speaking of potting mix, this brings us to our next tip. At number 2 on our list, replace pot and potting mix. This is very important. We must replace the potting mix and the pot. For some scales might still be in there and we don't want that. Our aim is to remove any potential hiding place for scales to prevent future infestations. Now that we have potted our cactus, we want to give them a refreshing sip of water. That brings us to our final tip. And on the top of our list at number 1, use natural fertilizer. Do you have aquarium fish? If you do, then this tip is for you. The aquarium water is a very good and natural fertilizer for all plants, including cactus and succulents. Use that aquarium water to water your cactus and succulents. It is very healthy and refreshing for them. So, having aquarium fish is like having an unlimited supply of natural fertilizers every time you water. Do you agree with our tips? Check out these other videos and be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we upload new videos.